dude, everything has to flow out of knowing him, you know? Sometimes I've thought that needed to be that I just need to present myself in a way where I look like I am doing that, you know, where I look like I'm this highly religious dude and and that is not what I mean. But just to literally keep him in the center of our sights, you know, even when that's telling him, I got nothing, man. This feels like a lie. You know what I mean? I've felt him nearer when I was that honest than a bazillion, false hallelujahs, right? You know what I mean?
Right. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Worship Fuel. My name is Matt McCoy. I'm the host of the Worship Fuel show and the founder of loopcommunity.com. And today I have a really special guest. I've got Mike Weaver from Big Daddy Weave, and we're going to talk about the new album, Let It Begin. Really excited to just kind of dig into what the story behind this album, and also just talk about worship leading and songwriting a little bit. So what are we waiting for? Let's bring in Mike Weaver. What's up, Mike?
Dude, how are you, man? This has been a long time coming, man. It's been a long time since we got to have a visit like this.
It has. I know. I think actually, I just was thinking about this. I think the last time you and I talked was when you guys released the album that had Lion and the Lamb on it.
Yes. That was Beautiful Offerings. That was probably 2015 or something, man.
Yeah. So
that's a long time ago. That's like 10 years ago, bro. That is crazy.
I know. It's funny because 2015, when you say 2015, doesn't sound that long ago, but then when you do the math, you're like, oh my gosh.
You're like, wait a minute, this is 2025. That means 10 years. That means a decade. That means a decade of our lives have passed.
I know. So way too long. But you've been doing a lot of new music, I'm sure, a lot of touring. Tell us about this new album you guys dropped. It's called Let It Begin.
Oh my gosh, dude. This album is like 6 years, 6 years since we had a record before this, which, the music industry is like in dog years or something or whatever. And so that's usually like the end of somebody, for that long, except for the fact that, Jesus reigns, and we just keep doing what he's doing, and so this has been the most difficult season of my entire life, Matt. I'm telling you. We, in about a 5-year stretch, we lost my dad and my mom and my little brother. And my little brother Jay was it was the final. It was so awful because he's my best friend. He's the hub in the middle of the wheel, the bass player of Big Daddy Weave, kind of a leader in many ways in our culture of Big Daddy Weave, and had this terrible health struggle, and went to be with Jesus at the beginning of 2022. But this is not only a ministry to us, it also is like our livelihood. And so it's like at some point you got to make a record and you have to write songs and you have to all this stuff. But I got to tell you, I wasn't feeling it. And I was just looking for a way out of this, man. My heart was so broken after Jay had passed. And I mean, I know I'm going to see him again in heaven. I know all that stuff. I literally, I think I can say this. I feel like I have zero doubt about that. I know. But man, it hurts so bad because we had always just done everything in life together, and all of a sudden this important voice, this important presence, all this was gone. And so now it's time to go write songs again. It's time to go encourage people again. That's a pretty awful feeling when your job is to like go encourage people, but it's like you feel like you're not dealing with a lot of hope, at that moment. And so, but we go in to write songs. And so all the songs are coming from this place of grief, dude, And so literally the first writing session got together with, Matthew West and Jeff Pardo, and dude, it was the first time I had tried to write a song since Jay had gone to heaven. And I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. And they just let me talk for an hour, like uninterrupted. And then as I'm talking, like when I finally took a breath, at the end of like an hour, Matthew turns around his phone and just shows me and just goes like, dude, he has 9 song titles written down, and he just goes, dude, this is not like a song, bro. This is a record. He goes, we're going to need some help. So we start sharing, man, all the things that I'm going through and all the things that are in my heart with the greater, songwriting community in Nashville. And then we decide to all get in a house together and just have
Hmm.
different duos of songwriters in each room. We're going to chase these songs that I just have Matthew just
Yeah.
wrote down on his, and then we came up with some more titles as well. And we're like just kind of all related to these different facets of grief that I was experiencing. And I literally went from room to room to room with different songwriters trying to chase down these songs. And if it had been about anything other than what it was about, I think it would have been an amazing experience. But I felt like it was killing me, man. Matt, I just thought
Yeah.
that I'm like, no, dude, I don't need to figure out how to make a record. I need to figure out how to get out of this. I got to figure out. So we wrote
Hmm.
all these grief songs, man. And then we were
Hmm.
like, when we have all these songs and we're starting to record them, we're like, dude, if we have a record completely of grief songs, we're gonna kill the listener, dude. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
they're not gonna make it out of this,
Yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah.
And which even though there's hope in all of them, but it's like, dude, good grief. Literally,
Yeah.
there's a song called Good
Yeah.
Grief on there,
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
dude, we so then we just kind of had to wait. And man, Jesus
Hmm.
just showed us about healing is a process.
Wow.
Since I've seen you, the last time I talked to you, we were in the midst of the greatest move of God we had ever seen.
Hmm.
We were just seeing Jesus do miracles every day. I'm telling
Hmm.
you, dude, I'm like, I couldn't make it up. The stories and testimonies we were getting from what God was doing in rooms every night. We would just
Hmm.
shut down the show and just pray for people. And then I lost the three people that I loved the most. And the one who was leading the charge in it, because my brother Jay, man, I'm telling you, there's a healing gift on him. And in fact, we named Jason, which is his name, means one who heals. We just saw God do it. And then to not see it and deal with this heaviness, you know,
Hmm.
I've seen Jesus heal people like that. But then what I've experienced in this last season is like Jesus stretching out his hand and being like, come on, hey, come with me. I'm going to take you on a journey that is healing, right? And
Wow.
so it's not instant. Um, but what happens on the other side of that journey is you're somebody different.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, toward the end of last year, it was as dark as I can remember. And Matt, all I can say is it was like Jesus showed up on my RV with me, dude. It's like, you ever seen the movie The Shack? Well, there's my RV was like the shack, dude. And
Yeah. Wow.
on the phone with a buddy,
Hmm.
it was like Jesus came on my RV, dude, and he
Hmm.
gave me a new heart, man. Um, he took out this old black shredded mass that was my broken heart that I was living out of, and
Hmm.
then he gave me a new heart, man. And then we have some different songs now that are not just about grief. So this record is a trip, man. This record is a journey because
Yeah.
it has all these heavy elements, but then it also has the other side, man.
Yeah.
Which is finding healing in His presence, man. Yeah, yeah,
So the album, so it's 6 years later.
yeah.
When did you guys start? How long of a break did you take before you
Well,
started?
really, it was about three. It was about 3 years, and then we started. So
Okay.
it was like
Wow.
this is, and so 3 years since we really started the record. So it was like,
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
because all this stuff was going on that was pushing back even pursuing the
Yeah.
record. And then
Yeah.
when my brother died in 2022, um, it already had been forever since we had started. And so we
Hmm.
started, and then it's taken forever. But man, the story of Jesus in my life over these years
Hmm.
it's expensive, dude. It's costly to me, man. You know what I mean? Like but it's powerful, and it
Yeah.
relates to other folks who are going through stuff. And I'm so thankful that it's not wasted, man. And so anybody who
Yeah.
hears this and you're going through just the most terrible things, hang
Yeah.
in there
Yeah.
because Jesus isn't done with the story yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that about him. I also hate that about the process, but I love that about him, that it's like he just hangs in there with us. And really this record becomes then just the story of his faithfulness when I'm telling you, most of those days I wasn't feeling it at all, right? I was feeling the
Hmm.
opposite. But
Yeah.
Jesus still carried us through, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you touch on that because I think there's a lot of worship leaders who feel tied to the paycheck, like they are, like it's their livelihood, it's their job. They have to lead worship every Sunday, but there's Sundays where they're just like, where they're in seasons where they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I may not even believe this anymore. Like you get in those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to lead worship, but this is the very last thing I want to do or feel like I'm
Yes.
capable of even doing. And it
Yes.
sounds like you kind of felt some of those, you went through that. And I think a lot of worship leaders
On
are
a
going through that.
daily basis, dude. Yes. And
Yeah.
one thing, so after our dad died, Jay would tell me things like that. He would say, what, sometimes all we can do is show up.
Yeah.
And really what Jesus is calling us to do is to show up and get out of the way anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would just show up and we would just tell people where we were at and just be like, man, sometimes I just don't even want to be here right now. And other people, it would be shocking to me to see some people's faces because I think I don't know that they thought it was okay to say something like that.
Right.
And there is this religious thing that you try to uphold or whatever, and you're doing your best. You're trying to say the things are the right things to say. That's not the stuff that Jesus is looking for us. It's like
Yeah.
he's just looking for us to bring who we are. Really we are just that offering that the little kid brought. He brought his lunchbox, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it's
Yeah.
definitely not enough, right? It's definitely not
Definitely
enough.
not. Yeah.
But he gave it to Jesus though. And so,
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of days all we had was pain. And so we just gave Jesus our pain and we just still showed up though.
Yeah.
And then the beauty is though, when we gave Jesus our pain though, he still showed up.
Hmm.
And so and by the way, when he shows up, it's a lot better than when we show up. And so I don't know
Yeah.
if you've noticed
Yeah.
a significant difference in that, but there's when Jesus shows up and touches something, you're talking about a whole different ball game.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, that's the thing. So yeah, I know I've got a lot of friends that have been in that same spot, dude, over these last years. I feel like since pandemic on, it's like there's
Yeah.
just been this gnarly thing, but I sense that something is lifting. I don't know if you can say that in
Yeah.
a state of the world. It just feels like the Lord is stirring something right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Totally.
I'm grateful because I've been the recipient of that too, and I'm in of a brand new heart. And
Yeah.
I thank Jesus for his faithfulness to me,
Yeah.
man.
Tell me about the album title, Let It Begin.
Mm. Dude.
Because I can imagine when I was thinking about you doing this, I'm like, man, first of all, it must have been really hard to do this album without your brother because you've done so
So
many
hard.
albums with him. This is the first one
Mm-hmm.
without. You got this, but then you're also coming out of the season of like grief, in the season of grief, and then an album title like Let It Begin. Tell us about that.
There was a night I would make this place when I would share every night about pain. I would make this place literally to plan on having a place to run off and just take an emotional break and I would just literally have to stop and cry sometimes.
Yeah.
And one night though, it dawned on me when I came to that part where I was planning to just breathe for a second. I'm like, man, actually, I think I'm okay. Does it not hurt? No, it still hurts a lot, but something had changed. Like we were further in the process. Like it was beginning. And so, dude, I get a call or a text message from Matt Maher, who I just think is incredible, man. I love those songs, man. We lead his songs, like all these. And he goes, dude, I got this song and I just keep thinking of you, man. And he goes, and it's this song and it was exactly our heart. Like we could never say it. He's so great at saying things, man. I could never say it like him, but he starts with, for the damage done, for the victories won, for the gift and for the grieving, for letting go and moving on. And I'm like going, who even says this, dude? It's like this theological Dr. Seuss thing going on in like, the lyric. And I'm like, good grief, Matt. The fact that you would give this to us, and it just it became like the banner over the record.
Wow.
And it's beautiful because I've seen it work for people who are dealing with the grief of like losing people, but I've also sung it over towns that were destroyed by hurricanes. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it just worked. And it's like we're all in that process. We're all somewhere in that process.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get done with the process while we're here, or you just get closer, or what. I don't know, but it depends on what we're talking about. But but it's like we've experienced that, and super grateful for that song from Matt Maher.
That's special. You've been releasing music and leading worship for a long time now. What advice would you tell a younger version of yourself you could go back to like when you first started getting into the music
Yeah,
industry, and you're doing what you're doing, what would you tell yourself if you could put your arm
dude, I'm
around like,
telling you, yeah, little Mike or whatever.
yeah,
I would say this, man. I hear this like in the whole like New Yorker voice or whatever. Like, forget about it. It's like there's these things that have nothing to do with
Hmm,
what our purpose really is. And
hmm,
it creates this Martha-ness to us. You know what I mean? Where we're running around and we're trying to do all this crap. I heard
yeah,
Peter Lord say this years ago. He said, wouldn't it be a shame we've been making apple pies all these years only to find out that Jesus don't even like apples? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's like, dude, everything has to flow out of knowing him,
hmm,
you know? And that does not mean sometimes I have thought that needed to be that I just need to present myself in a way where I look like I am doing that, where
yeah,
I look like I'm this highly religious dude, and that is not
hmm,
what I mean. But just to literally keep him in the center of our sights.
yeah,
Um, even when that's telling him, I got nothing, man. This feels like a lie. You know what I mean? I've felt
right,
him nearer when I was that honest than a bazillion, false hallelujahs, right? You know what I mean?
right, right, right,
I also have romanced the pain too, though,
hmm, yeah,
and you got to let Jesus be able to call you beyond the stuff that happens to you.
yeah,
Either way, the solution is it's him, dude. He's a person, dude. He's
yeah,
not a religious idea. Jesus, literally the person, the man, came and did all the things that we sing about, right? Overcame
hmm,
the great, like he literally did that. But if that means nothing to you, you know what I mean? If that's not the
yeah,
center of your, yeah, I mean, we got nothing to give people. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Because really, it just has to come from the overflow of Him, man. So there's all these things that felt like they needed to take precedent over the main thing, which is just knowing Him, which seems overly simple, but which is His intent, I think.
yeah,
And dude, I would just say, forget about them. Forget about all
hmm,
these things. What do I look like in it? Forget about it. I've stayed up all night thinking of how stupid it must have looked, how bad it must have been, how you know what I mean? And
yeah,
Jesus is going like, hey, over here. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, yeah.
apart from
Just know
me, you
me.
can do nothing. You got nothing, right? So
Hmm,
it's like, and to really
yeah,
just feel okay to let all that stuff go. What you think people think, what you're trying to live up to, the expectation you have for you, all that, let it,
yeah,
forget about it. Forget about it, dude.
yeah,
And then the, the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace, right? And
right.
so that's it, man. That's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What is one song? I know that's like asking you to pick your favorite child, but what is one song on the album that you really hope worship leaders would listen to?
Bro, okay. So good. In fact, can I expand it to three?
You can do
Because
three. Yep.
I'll make it very, very quick. So the thing is, no, first one is called "Have Your Way." Um,
Yep.
it was a worship experience, sitting up on the side of my bed, and it is an encounter with God, like in a
Mm,
song.
mm,
Um, You're beautiful. Come have your way in me. Surrender. And then it's like, and then I believe you're moving in my life, and then thanking him for it. It's like literally an
awesome.
experience, like in a worship song.
Awesome.
It is. I will quickly have the tracks my own self from Loop Community on my
Yeah.
own little Prime rig. Actually, it's like so
Good.
great.
Love
The
it.
the next thing is a song called "Free," which we wrote in Zambia, and dude, it's like literally the picture in my head when we wrote the song was like using the severed head of Goliath as a drum, like beating out a freedom rhythm, like literally on the head of our defeated enemy. Like he's so
Wow.
defeated, he's a part of the perk section now. It's like
Yeah.
and like literally this song was born out of that. That one, check that one out because it's super accessible. It's super,
Yeah.
you can get it from chorus one, you're in, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the third one is a song that hurt to write, but I'm so grateful. It's a song called Constantly.
Mm,
And man, it is just about the faithfulness of God and his constant
yeah.
faithful presence, man. So without breaking any of those down, That's where I
Yeah.
would point people, especially worship leaders, man, because
That's
it was
awesome.
so good to not sing a grief song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That
Yep.
that it was it. And there's other songs on there that it's like if you need a special song or if you need to think about, you know,
Yeah.
if you need a room to sit in with some facet of grief, there's lots of those songs. But the
Yeah.
songs that I love to sing with people are those three that I just named.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I'm thankful for you, man. I'm thankful for what you're doing and that you have persevered, that you've stepped into it, and that you've given us these songs. Thank you. And I know it hasn't come
Oh
easy,
man, bro.
but because I know what you say, that there is a cost to it. And
Yeah.
but it is such a blessing to the church and to worship leaders and to the heart of God. So thank you. And thanks for taking the time to have this conversation as well.
100%, dude. Thanks for having me on here, man. It's great to
Yeah,
get to reconnect with you, dude.
I know. We'll talk soon. Blessings.
Okay. See you, buddy.
All right, guys, great conversation with Mike Weaver from Big Daddy Weave. Make sure you go check out their latest album, Let It Begin. Honestly, hearing the story of that album makes me want to highly encourage you to go listen to it right now. Stop this interview, go find it on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. We've got the charts, the tracks all at loop in Song Select, CCLI. Go listen to this album and learn some of these songs, incorporate them in your church. And I think you're really going to be blessed by it. Thank you, Mike. And hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for the future shows. We'll see you soon.